that you can train a 5-year-old to do something, you can train anybody to do something.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had a class of them, and our entire day was based on play, singing, joy, happiness, and community.
It's Evie here. Welcome to EML Radio, where we are always talking truth. All of those things you need to hear that nobody else is willing to say.
Hi, Geoff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's amazing to be here in this beautiful city, in this beautiful office with a beautiful lady. That's always good.
Thank you so much. We've known each other a really long time.
Yes, we have. Quite a while.
Yep. Over 10 years.
Yeah. I know. We were talking about that just before this, and didn't even realize. I thought it was about 10 years, and I was like, no. And then you reminded me that Scarlett, you guys had Scarlett. She was just a baby, and I'm like, she's
13 now. So you've known her really since, nearly since when we brought her home at 9 months old. Yeah. It's been a long time.
Man, I got a lot of gray hair now.
Yeah. And you're one of those people that, obviously I haven't seen you in person, face to face, for
2 years?
Couple of years, unless I've run into you somewhere. Yeah. But someone who I always just keep on my radar. I love what you do. Mm-hmm. I love your presence on social media. Ditto, that's why I wanted to have you on the show today.
Awesome.
Just because I think you have a lot of knowledge and enthusiasm, and I won't say motivation, I'll say inspiration to lend to people and the world at large. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do today.
Cool.
Going to talk about what you do. Yeah.
Irritational speaker.
Oh, that's great.
That's Larry Wingett. He coined himself as the first irritational speaker.
Oh God, that's so like, good.
I'll tell the people the truth. They don't like that, but dang it, if you get them laughing, they'll listen to anything.
So good. Hey, so before we talk about the things we were going to kind of cover today, which was reducing stress, really timely, what we got going on in the world right now, super important for people. I think you have a lot to share there, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of tangible ideas for people. Yeah. And then also your basis for that is all centered around play, which I love. So before we get into those details, I just want you to give everybody listening an idea about what you do, who you are, what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm Geoff McLachlan, spelled with a G. I'm a Geoff, so people look at me and they go, oh, that makes sense now. I get it. Okay, you're one of those people, yeah.
One of those Geoffs.
One of those Geoffs, yeah. So I'm Geoff McLachlan, and I'm the founder and CEO of Professionals at Play, a group that works with businesses and individuals and increases productivity and communication skills through play. And so whether I'm working with an individual on coaching in life coaching, or I'm working with a group at a business on how do they communicate more effectively or how do they actually get along. The whole goal is to help them win at business and life. And so whether that's they need more communication skills, they need more play, they need more fun, stress reduction, which is what we'll talk about, which is a big one, obviously.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually get into it to do those things. I got into it because I wanted to have fun. And I believe if you have fun and you like the people you work with, that you are automatically more inclined to be better at what you do. So it was real simple. Yeah, so it was real simple. So just how I did things always.
So back up a little bit to your education, or if that had anything to do with what you're doing now, how you even got into this space. Because it really is, this isn't what you hear from people every day. People you just go help people play, and it's that's a real thing. Yeah. It's a real job. It's a real way to make money, right?
It's the coolest job ever. It is so cool. So I actually started off as a teacher. Yeah, so I started off and I worked in special education in high school as a paraprofessional because I got done with my first 2 years of college and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life.
Everybody.
Right, exactly. So I didn't know, I couldn't find my butt with both hands and a map and a guide. I mean, I was that clueless about life. Typical male at, 19, 20 years old.
Typical anyone at 19, 20 years old.
True.
Right? Guys are just willing to admit it. Gals just are they think they've got it all figured out.
They're closer than guys are for sure, because I had no idea. And so I ended up working at a high school with my dad. And my dad was the coach, cross-country track coach, and then a teacher at the high school.
And I got to interrupt you for a second while you brought him up.
Oh,
your dad. is one of my favorite human beings.
He's amazing.
Really, yeah.
Otis, yep. James Otis McLachlan.
Yep. He is a good man.
He is one of the best.
Yep.
And actually, he's probably one of the people that like influenced me the most in my play and in having fun and in my relationships with people. You know, him and Mom were my biggest inspirations.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, because those are the people you spend the most time with in your formative
absolutely.
years. And just watching how he has affected other people has directly influenced how I interact with people today.
He's fully retired now and stuff.
He is fully retired.
Okay.
Well, it's funny because he went into retirement and then he opened a farm.
Oh,
So-
good for him.
Yeah, and it's not a productive farm in terms of he doesn't actually make any money.
Yeah.
He just does it so that he can have a social output
Yeah.
because he likes to play with his friends.
Oh, and so important as you age,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And makes me think about Jeff and I met each other through CrossFit.
Yep.
And your dad was there at
Yep.
the time, and I can always remember that was in the days too that, you know, being paleo was like that. You had, if you were a CrossFitter and you didn't eat a paleo diet, you were like
Shunned.
fucking devil.
Shun the
You are
non-believers.
like ignorant
Shun.
piece of shit. You have absolutely no
Dumbass.
idea what you're doing, right? You're gonna die.
You don't eat like a caveman. You're gonna die like a caveman. Wait, what does that
And
mean?
if you eat a white potato instead of a sweet potato, like
Oh my
you're
God.
out of the club.
Right.
But anyway, it makes me think about your dad because we were all kind of just really experimenting with it, right?
Right.
And
We
the
didn't
guys
know
teaching
anything.
us like that,
Yeah.
they were kind of doing the same, right? Knew a little bit more than we did.
Yeah.
But your dad obviously was like really into just growing his own food, and
Yeah.
did he have a garden, like smaller version of farm what he has now?
Oh yeah, he's got his own personal garden,
Got
which
it.
is actually healthy food.
Yeah.
And then his professional garden is sweet corn.
Well, because it's funny that you bring up corn, because corn is a grain, right? It's not a vegetable.
It is not.
And I still remember to this day, and it's probably been 13, 14 years, but he was like, Evie, I guess I'm just not like understanding, like if I just grew some corn and it's fresh right off the cob, like why can I not eat that? And we're like, that kind of made some bells go off in my head, like, you got a point there, Jim.
Yeah.
Maybe we should explore, like, maybe not having to be so dogmatic and strict about what
Right.
we're eating.
Right. Taking all the fun out of food.
Oh,
Why would you do
shoot.
that? Food is fun. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun to experiment and play with. And you know, you got to
Got
give
it.
yourself a cheat every now and then. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
yeah.
That's
Even if
like-
it's an ear of corn.
right. And by the way, it is the best corn. It is so good.
I
It
can
is the
only
most
imagine.
incredible sweet corn.
Awesome.
And oh,
So anyway, I took you totally off track on what you
I
were
don't
telling
even-
us all
I don't
about
even
you,
know where
but
we were.
when your dad came up, I just
oh
like
wait,
had to
yeah,
explore that.
background. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
teaching, education.
Got it.
Yeah, so yeah, I worked in special education with my dad. My dad wasn't a special ed teacher, but he got me like the interview in the high school. And
'Cause he
then
was a coach.
Because he was a coach.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, there's an opening for this job. I think you'd be great at it, give you some experience in a school. And I did that, loved it, had fun, ended up actually, being, because of who I was, and I was obviously intelligent, and they were like, great, hey, Jeff, why don't you take over this class? We want to see what you can do. And so I had these amazing group of teachers that allowed me to actually get in front of kids and present and teach and learn how to engage people. And that was fun. And then I ended up going back to college and getting my teaching degree. So at that point, I was
Okay.
just a paraprofessional.
Okay.
I shouldn't say just a paraprofessional
No.
because those people are absolute heroes.
Right.
But I went back and actually got the education degree. And then I started off teaching kindergarten. So
Oh my God.
high school and
I don't
kindergarten.
think I ever knew that.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just
think I
like
was a
picturing
serious-
this.
Right.
I'm like, who's
Big,
leading who there?
Furry guy.
Like,
You'd hear them coming down the school for the very first day, the hallways. They're like, I'm 5, I'm a Hawaiian, I'm 5 years old. Yeah, I'm 5 years old. They're excited. They'd come around the corner, I'd jump out from behind the door, and kids would pee themselves. It was so much fun. It was a blast. And I learned early on that in schools, in elementary school, you are like your level of ability to teach people was determined on how well your class behaved in the hallway. And so that was, you're a good teacher
Wow.
if your classes behaved in the hallway.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. So I looked at it as it was my little Pavlovian experiment. I had between two classes, I think I had close to 50 kindergartners, 55-year-olds, 5 and 6-year-olds. A couple of them were really only 4 years old because they just turned 5, and they were my little puppies. And I can tell you right now that you can train a 5-year-old to do something. You can train anybody to do something.
Oh, yeah.
And so I had a class of them, and our entire day was based on play, singing, joy, happiness, and community. And everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, well, are you teaching them to learn? How are you doing this?" And I was like, "Watch this. and I'd go over and I had a bell. And I could just put my hand over the bell and everybody in the classroom would stop, put their hands up and look. And it was instant. And they're like, how did you do that? And I'm like, well, we spent an entire week learning what the bell was.
Yep.
You spent a week learning what a bell is? I said, no, it's not the bell itself. That was easy.
Right.
It's what happens when the bell rings. And they go, oh. But then I could say, all right, fire drill, go. In my class, my kindergarten class, my kindergartners could line up in alphabetical order from anywhere in the classroom in less than 30 seconds.
God, I love this.
And
like,
and we played. Everything was played. It was a race.
Yep.
But it had to be silent. And they're like, how do you get kindergartners to be silent? I said, it's a game. Yep. It is game. It is all, they all want to win. How do they win? They get lined up in the correct order perfectly in less than 30 seconds without making any noise. Well, who gets to determine that? I do. I get to determine that.
Yep. Because you're the leader.
Exactly.
Right? You're the authority in the room.
Exactly.
Right?
And so
of which people can know even at 5 years old.
At 5 years old, they're like, okay, you're the tallest, you're the furriest, okay, you're obviously the leader.
Yeah. Will you talk just a second about that? About the innate human desire to be led. Right?
It is so interesting because we are really pack animals. We need community.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if your community is CrossFit, it doesn't matter if it's an online community, if it's knitting, if it's hiking, if
book
it's
club,
anything.
Bunko.
Right, oh my gosh.
Bunko.
I know some Bunko groups that
is all about community because it's not a fucking game.
It is, right. And it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you watch people play Bunko and it gets crazy.
I tried when I was kind of bored and lost in my late 20s. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, well, I'll play Bunko. Like, I couldn't even go there. I'm like, if we even are going to play like Scrabble or something, I can do it, but we got to think.
Right.
Not just get together. But anyway.
Drinking games. I'm good at drinking games. I'm big on the Corona Facebook drinking game right now. It's pretty awesome, except for by like 7:30 in the morning, I'm trashed.
Yeah,
so.
you're like, well, that doesn't work.
It's not good. Can't be productive for the rest of the day.
Everybody's alcoholic when they go back to work.
I was gonna say, there's two things that happen.
Oh,
You're
shit.
an alcoholic, or you're never gonna touch another person.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, so like those things, everybody needs community, and so people, when they join a community, they're looking for who's the leader in the community, and that leader, whether they are designated by the group or by proxy, they are going to be, it doesn't even matter. Like I've seen organizations where, this is the person at the top of the organization, but the leader is really down here. The leader can be at the very bottom.
Right. And
the leader is the person that people look up to, that they go to for advice, for support, for anything.
Security, right? Like what makes them feel safe and secure
And that's the job of a leader, Simon Sinek's book, Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah.
A great book. Yeah. And so it's all about, how do we determine who the leaders are? And that's all a brain chemical process. And it's fascinating. But human beings, like the psychology of we need somebody to interact with.
Yes. And we need someone to lead us. And I didn't even plan on talking about this today, but I'm glad it came up because I have this, I'm just generally repulsed by the idea that like your kids just get to make all the decisions. Like we went through, we're still in it, right? This parenting trend of, is that okay with you?
Oh, that's such
what would you like to eat? What would you like to eat? Right? Giving kids too many options.
Yeah.
And believe me, I say this all the time. Like I have messed a lot of things up as a parent, and I continue to do so. Right? That's just part
natural.
of the gig. This is not
no
a judgment call.
book, right.
But I can tell you that because I'm very structured in how I parent. Right? Like I am the leader.
Yeah.
We make decisions collectively, consciously as a family.
Right. Yeah.
On big things,
right.
But everyday life is like I'm in charge, like I'm the parent. The kids don't get to make the decision. And everywhere we've always gone, from the time Scarlett was even, seriously, Geoff, 8 months old, we'd be on a plane and people are like, why does she behave like that? She's so good. Like because she feels safe.
Right.
She knows I'm there to make the decisions for her. Kids and too many decisions leads to them feeling out of control.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. That's totally true. They need structure. I am all for giving kids options.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They are the options that you
1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
Right.
You get this, or this. What is it? And they are all your options. They are all things that you want them to do. But they then have freedom of choice. But it's not you can have anything you want. That's ridiculous. That is stupid. You will create anxiety-ridden, and we've already seen that. You've seen mental health issues go up with students, with kids that are young. I mean, you've got kids that are under 10 years old contemplating and attempting suicide.
Think about that.
That is
Right.
a massive failure of I'm sorry, but that's a massive failure of a parent. Like,
Right, at like really a global scale. It's like, what's happening here? Like,
right, I'm
what
gonna get
changed
so
in
much
the
trouble
world?
for what I just said.
But you know what? That's okay, because we're about talking truth here, and
Yeah.
we're never about just not saying the way it is, and even if it ruffles people's feathers,
Right.
They don't have to agree with what you say. They don't have
Yeah.
to agree with what I say. But at the end of the day, my goal is to make people think a little bit deeper.
Exactly.
It's not about finger pointing.
No.
It's about maybe making some consciousness and awareness
Awareness
in
is
people,
huge. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
They become more aware, and
Yep.
then they start making different decisions.
Yep.
So go with that, man.
Yeah.
Like I really
Yeah.
do want to hear your.
Well, just that awareness
your
piece.
input
I
on
mean,
that.
as a parent, I mean, I'm sure I know I've screwed up. I know. I mean, what parent hasn't?
Right, it's hard shit.
Right. It is really tough.
Like
because,
responsibility for a whole nother human being,
Right.
And who they become.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big
That's
deal.
on you.
Right.
Like, if you can provide
Scary
a safe
shit.
and secure environment where they are loved and cared for, if they know those things, if they know that they're safe and secure, guess what? I truly believe there are some mental health issues that
Sure,
are chemical imbalances. We know that.
Right.
We know that. But I've also seen people that are like ridden, adults that I know that are ridden with anxiety, and they're so terrified. They are in a state of fear constantly because of their anxiety. And I say, well, why are you afraid? Like, you know that fear, if you're afraid of something, that it's not actually happening.
Right.
If you're in a state of fear, it's not actually happening to you yet. It's all in your mind.
Yep.
And if you can recognize that feeling, you're actually in your amygdala in the back of your brain, and that's the fight or flight.
Right.
You know, it's there to keep you safe. You see a bear when you're hiking in the woods, and you're like, "There's a mama bear and a cub." Oh shit! Your amygdala kicks in.
Yeah.
Do I fight? Do I flight? Or do I play dead?
Right.
Fight, flight, or freeze. That's what I do. But if you're like just scrolling through Facebook and your anxiety's going up, your simple thing is to stop, unplug, put it down, and go do something outside. Go smell a tree. Literally, go smell a friggin' tree. Get your damn ass outside and do something
Smell a
positive.
tree. That's the best.
Seriously, there is something to be said about the smell of nature, and nature resets your biorhythms, and it gets you, focused and calmed back down.
Yep.
So people are operating in fear and anxiety, then they're not thinking, and then they're sheeple.
And we're creating that in our youth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Unintentionally.
With the
taking away play from
my gosh.
educational curriculums.
Oh, it's
right?
so sad.
I know, you probably
So
don't know.
terrifying.
Like, so Scarlett, we had a really tumultuous just the last couple of years in our family in general, selling a business. Like, every aspect of our life that could potentially changed all at once.
Right.
I
A
feel like I
tsunami
should
of
know
change.
better, but it just really wasn't all expected or planned,
Yeah.
and we just had to roll with it.
Yep.
So, long story short, Scarlett went from small private Catholic school. We wanted her to kind of reach out a little bit more
Yeah.
and get more exposure. So we sent her to another school that's very academically focused, right? Charter here,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
which she is really structured and loves to learn. So we thought, oh, this is going to be the perfect environment for her. Long story short, it wasn't, and it wasn't. And she had a academic excellence award when we pulled her out.
Yeah.
So on paper, it looked like, why would you ever take her out of this school?
Right.
And we did it because she was literally sitting. Now, keep in mind, this is 6th grade, and she's 12 years old, and she's sitting doing math from this. She wouldn't even take her uniform off. She would have a snack while she's continuing on her schoolwork.
Yep.
She stayed after for study hall so that she could get some of her work done.
Yep.
She would have a snack and was doing math until, I kid you not, Jeff, 10 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh.
And she borders on kind of wanting to be a perfectionist, right? So we're doing everything we can as parents to kind of step
Pull
her
that back.
down
Yeah,
from
it
that,
doesn't have
right?
to be
Like,
perfect.
this is not perfect, and we
Yeah.
do not want her to have this closed mindset. Like, we want her growth mindset,
Right,
Like,
right.
we want her to be like, everything just ebbs and flows, and it is, we do the best we can. So this was the worst possible thing we could be doing for her is, if you don't finish this math assignment,
Then you're
30 ninth grade algebra problems
Oh my gosh.
every night as a 6th grader. Not to mention, Casey was like, he would call me every day at like 3:15 and go, how much fucking homework do I have tonight?
This bullshit.
He's the math guy. I'm the language arts gal, right? So it was like the burden was always on him. I'm like, it really was horrible.
Really easy. Yeah.
We made the decision to pull her out of there, and I mean, she ended up with, she's never sick, and she ended up with strep throat. They had finals. Yeah, and this is not a bash against the school itself. It is not it is not aligned with our values. Right. And I think that there's a lot of misdirection in what is the best level of education for people, right?
Yeah.
And she finally said to it, we were talking to her one night and said, like, Scarlett, like, you just have some decisions to make on what are we going to do here? Because she loved the kids, loved the teachers, but the whole workload was just so much for her. Yeah. And so we told her, Casey said to her, Scar, like, when Mom and I were growing up, we got home, like, threw our book bag in, ate a tuna fish sandwich, right? Watched some Gilligan's Island for 30 minutes, and then we were out the door, like, busting on bikes. And she was so serious, Jeff. She goes, your guys' childhood sounds like heaven.
Oh, no.
I know. That, like, gives me chills, almost could make me cry right now saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Casey and I both at that point were like, what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
Like, why do we have her here?
Right.
And so literally, then when she went back to school after having strep, I picked her up and she was like, Mom, I have 9 assignments due tomorrow. And I said, do you really want to go back? And she goes, no. And I go, all right, you want to go have pizza?
Yeah.
I shit you not. Like, we never went back.
Yeah.
I turned her books in. It was like, well, where are you going to go to school? I'm like, I don't know. She's in 6th grade, and we're not idiots. We're going to make sure she gets it.
Math. She's
good,
fine for
right?
a week off.
We enrolled her in an online international academy where she had structure because she needs a lot of structure.
Yeah.
She loves that.
Kids
she
love
thrives
structure.
in it, right? We talked about that, right?
Yep.
And it was academically a really high-reaching curriculum, but she could still play and do the things she loved, and she got to work on her Spanish, and she do whatever she wanted for the rest of the afternoon, and it really was glorious.
Yeah.
But I even bring that up because I think it's important to have these conversations, because right now parents that I talk to, a lot of gals especially, are like, if your kid doesn't go to one of these high-level schools, then you're somehow a failure.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't quite figure out, I don't know where it stemmed from. Like, I'm writing a book, and this is why I interview these people, to figure out, like, where is this pressure coming from to be a perfect parent?
Yeah.
And that if your kid isn't in the best school, then you're somehow a failure. Right?
There's that social pressure. There really is social pressure.
There is.
So, our kids are in public schools because I was a public school teacher. My parents are public school teachers.
Scarlett's in a public school now.
My wife works in a public school. Like, okay, great. I think it's one of the truest places where you can get true socialization, which is you're going to meet, 10 to 20,000 people in your lifetime, if not more.
Yep.
And you're going to meet a lot of people the same kinds of people that you work with in schools,
Right.
And so you get all different kinds. You get people that have a lot of money. You get people that have nothing. You get people in between.
Oh, it's so good, right?
And it's so good. That socialization is, I think, probably more important in terms of how successful is a kid as an adult than the academic rigor. And
no question. Me and Casey say this all the time. He went to a public school. I went to private school just for the religious background of it until I was in 6th grade, and then I went on into college. I mean, went into public school.
I was going to say, damn,
I'm a smart girl. You didn't know how fucking smart I am, did you?
Shit.
6th grade straight to college.
Damn, Doogie Howser, MD. Wow.
Oh, shit. But Casey and I both went through public education, right? And a public, just a state university. And we go because we're like, we're doing all right, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're pretty good. Like, financially, socially, like, we're pretty darn happy and content in our life. And it didn't take being isolated. And I think quite the contrary is that, I'm going to toot our own horn. Him and I both have the ability to go into any room at any economic level, at any educational level, and relate to pretty much anybody, right? Yeah. And I think that we're doing our kids a really disservice when all they've been is surrounded by kids that are exactly like them.
Oh, so
their moms all drive the exact same car, right?
Yeah. They don't understand what's different, and then all of a sudden it's so drastic when they see something different that it's devastating.
And have no idea how to even relate to it.
Right. I mean, I'm so grateful that I got to grow up in the time of Gilligan's Island and Little House on the Prairie and
Three's Company.
Oh my gosh, right? And we had freedom, and that's really what I base my life, career, and choices off of, is the fact that when you played as a kid, it was unstructured, it was free time. And that freedom, because we didn't have electronics, we didn't have the technology that we do now. And because of that, we actually learned how to socially interact with other people. And we did it through play. So if you're on the playground and you've got 10 kids there, you decided who got to do what activities, because there's only 2 swings. Well, great, that means there's 8 people that can't be on the swings.
Right.
But you got the slide, you got the monkey bars, you got the merry-go-round, and you got to decide who got to be where, and you would just kind of rotate around naturally. That was a natural amoeba-like play where you determined who got to do what.
Yep.
Then if everybody wanted to play a game, you wanted to play Red Rover, great, you had to determine who was on which teams.
4 square. There's only 4 squares. There's 4
right.
spots.
And you determined the rules. You learned how to negotiate. You learned negotiation skills as a kid through play. And that carries into life, into your business life as an adult. And we don't have the kids. The kids are not playing the same way anymore. Now they're playing online.
Right. And like I have friends that are in this kind of realm. Like, okay, well, let's go to the park. Well, so I'll just, full disclosure, I fucking hate going to the park. Like, I don't want to go to the park and sit and watch Scarlett on a swing. Right? I just don't.
This is not fun.
It is not fun. And I guarantee that like 99% of moms feel that way, maybe 90.
Well, that's why they're on their phones. Like, they go there and the parents are like, scrolling.
Right? Like, nobody likes it. I'm just willing to admit it.
Right.
But when they go to the park with their kids, then it's like they're going to figure out, you know what? Give your sister a turn now.
Right.
Everybody's going to freaking tell all the
directed.
kids. It's totally parent directed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to go to the park and tell you like who needs to get on and off the swings and who gets to go first down the slide.
Nope.
Oh
my gosh.
But it's what's happening.
It's so funny because our boys are pretty well socially in situations. They're really good. People are always like, wow, they're very well behaved. They've got excellent manners. I say yes because, we taught them that.
Yep.
But then they also have a great amount of confidence. And so we had an incident down at McEwen Field where there were a couple of older kids picking on my younger son. And my younger son happens to be, he's 8.
Okay.
He's 8 years old and he's a beast. He's kind of like a miniature Incredible Hulk.
Oh, okay.
He's built like a refrigerator. And he's a beast. He's a little tank.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, these two, I think they're probably in middle school. I would say that they're
ew.
Yeah, 11, 12
weird.
years old. Yeah.
You're going to pick on an 8-year-old?
Well, he doesn't look like an 8-year-old.
Got it.
That's the thing. He's got the mind of an 8-year-old, but
not the body.
He doesn't have the body of an 8-year-old. And oh my gosh, these boys they started hey dude, we're gonna fight you. And it was so funny because these boys are bigger than him. And so it was him, my other son, his brother, and then 2 cousins. And the 2 cousins who we love, they started freaking out. But then all of a sudden they all got together, they huddled up real fast. They literally turned their backs to these boys, huddle up, and okay, there's 4 of us. There's only 2 of them. We can take them. Okay, let's do this. And they turn around. It was so cute. They said, we have a code word. It's turtle, turtle, turtle. If these guys try and come after you, turtle, 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 we all converge on them and we take them out. And my youngest son goes, okay, cool. If you guys want to fight, I'm okay. Bring it on. Let's do it. And I was like, holy crap. And I sat there and I just watched. And I didn't interact at all. I didn't intervene.
Do you even know that that never happens?
Right.
If any other parent saw that happen, it would be like...
And I see that all the time. And I was like, well, let's just... And, my wife was there and she was like, do we need to do something? I was like, no, just watch.
Well, if someone starts beating the shit out of your kid, you're probably going to
At that point, I'd be like, okay, let him get a few
Okay.
punches in and see what he does. Because,
And then-
everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, thank you.
Yeah.
But the moment he stood up to this kid, he's like, yeah, bring it on, dude. I know jujitsu. And the kid goes, that's not even real. He goes, yeah, try me, bro. And the kid backed down. This 11, 12-year-old kid who's bigger backs down because of pure confidence. He learns that confidence in our neighborhood playing.
Yep.
He learns that confidence because he's got a deal. Our neighborhood, I love my neighborhood, but it's kind of, for Coeur d'Alene, it's kind of ghetto. I know, there's no ghetto in Coeur d'Alene. Coeur de Compton, that's where I'm from. What? We got cars on blocks, yo. Jenny from the block, she up over there. She a 1982 Chrysler. What up, girl? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But we learn, those kids learn confidence and they get into fights and they learn
That
how
they
to
can't
argue.
learn anywhere else,
cannot
right?
learn that.
Where are you going to mimic that?
You can't, as a parent, you can't teach them that. They have to learn it.
Right.
And that's the hard part. They have to learn it through experience. And the kids nowadays, unfortunately, are not getting the same experiences that we had because we didn't have technology.
Yep.
And the technology is one of the things that is driving mental health issues with kids. I'm 100% convinced of that.
Okay.
And I can't prove it statistically. I can't prove it through science, but I can prove it through working with almost 1 million of them.
In the behavioral sciences,
In the behavioral
right?
sciences, you can see, you can ask anybody and say, what does this device do? Well, watch a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old knows how to work an iPhone.
Yep.
But a 2-year-old doesn't know how to, communicate effectively what they want, need, desire, because they don't have the verbal skills yet.
Yep.
But you can teach a 1.5-year-old sign language, and they will know that.
Yep.
But the moment you give them that thing, that little device, it's game over. And so, and our kids get on it. Our kids
Right.
have time on it. But go outside and play is not an option anymore because people are so afraid of what might happen.
Yeah.
They're afraid of, oh, what if they get hurt? Great, they learned a lesson. Don't jump out of trees.
Right.
That's how, I'm sorry, that's boys need to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
They need to learn through physical pain.
Yep.
And that's why play, rough and tumble play fighting. My wife and I disagree on this. She says, don't give boys sticks. The boys in the neighborhood will beat the crap out of each other. And I said, that's an important life lesson. It hurts to get hit with a stick. Don't whack somebody in the head if you don't want to get whacked back. Mm-hmm. That's an important life lesson.
And it's building resiliency, right?
Totally.
And, this is obviously not my area of expertise whatsoever, but when you look at like suicide rates, right, in particularly males, right? I don't even know exactly what the number is, but like alarmingly,
it's high.
It's crazy high, right, in young males.
Yeah.
But I think that missing out on some of that ability to be resilient. And I'm not saying you have to get the shit kicked out of you on a daily basis by any means.
That's just as bad.
Well, absolutely, right? That's going to have the same end
effect.
result, right? But not being able to navigate or having false expectations. I think that would be a better way of saying it, of coming out of kind of this helicopter parent environment where everything was kind of staged and set up accordingly for you, right? Whatever you're good at or what do you want to do.
Right.
And then you go out into the real world and you're like, okay, well, this isn't actually how the stage looked at home.
Right. It's different.
And I have no idea how to navigate this. I have no idea how to navigate when shit is hard. Right. And Casey and I have a lot of real world experience there, right? I mean,
well, we failed. I mean, we understand what failure is. If we never let kids fail, the first time they actually fail, it's devastating.
Devastating.
It is soul crushing, like life ending.
Yep.
They don't know that. Great, a failure. So great, pick yourself up, start again.
Yep.
What'd you do wrong?
It's gonna hurt. That's okay. Like, admit it.
Okay. It's not going to destroy you.
Yeah.
I mean, I because of the things I've done and the people I've gotten to meet through personal development and speaking and all that kind of stuff, I've gotten to meet multimillionaires who've literally lost everything. Bankruptcy. I got
the vast majority have, right?
The vast
that's
majority
just what people
failed
don't know.
epically.
Any big, large corporation out there,
gosh.
or innovative product, I guarantee you,
so many times.
those people have failed more than the everyday person would ever even have tried in their life. But we don't, nobody sees that.
We don't talk about the failures. We talk about the successes.
Yep.
And that's like the resiliency piece that kids aren't getting, unfortunately, because we're taking away play. That right there alone is devastating for kids. And it's
so
just
what
sad.
do you do? I like to give people, when we break these things down, because this is great for people to really start thinking about.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Now people are like, well, fuck, my kid doesn't, I'm not comfortable letting them just go ride their bike down the block because the world is more mobile now and there's predators everywhere. And this is what I know is going to pop into a lot of people's heads that are listening.
Right.
So I want to fix something, I want to provide it, but how do I do it?
Yeah. So that's a big thing. So I actually run school programs as well.
Oh, got it.
And so that's where I cut my teeth. I've worked with almost 1 million kids and over 1,000 presentations, and it's all about how do we build community with kids. Well, we do it all through play. And so as a parent, letting your kids play. There's a great book out there. It's by Stuart Brown, and it's called Play. And it's all about the different kinds of play. and he's kind of like the professor of play. He's out of Stanford University, and he's absolutely brilliant. He's got a great TED Talk all about play, and he talks about the different kinds of play that we have. There's exploratory play, there's rough and tumble play, there's imaginative play. Your kids have to have all of those. They have to have those, even if it's just in the backyard. If they are discovering, obviously you're not going to let a 1-year-old crawl out in the street. That makes sense, right? Be logical about it, provide the safety net, but also let them fail. They have to have time that is completely unparent supervised. That is not online. That's not what I'm saying. It has to be physical in the physical world, like outside doing something. They could be inside, maybe they're playing with Legos. Great. I love it when my boys play with Legos because all of a sudden they unplug, they start, and the imagination starts to go.
That's Scarlett's jam, man. She never played with a doll a day in her life. She really,
I
tried. I love Barbies. And it was like I tried to make her love Barbies. She didn't love them. Like she's like, no thanks, but I would like to build Legos.
Right.
That's all she does. She still does it. And she's 13 years old.
Oh my gosh, I still love playing Legos with my kids.
Yep.
So, if you play with your kids at their level as well, get involved with them. Don't solve their problems though.
See, that's the hard part, right? Because people want to step in and go, well, here, if you're having trouble putting that together, let me put it together for you.
It's one of the hardest things to let them fail. To let it completely fail. Be like, but then ask questions. Well, what happened? Why did it fail? Why didn't it work? What could we do differently? That's a big one. What else? What else can we do differently? And as teenagers, I work with a ton of teenagers. And as a parent of a teenager, if you ever ask your child, like Scarlett, what'd you do today? What does she usually say? Scarlett's pretty awesome. Nothing. But nothing is the number one answer. Yeah. Nothing. Interesting.
We don't have that conversation. I say, okay, she gets in the car. I'm like, hey, bud, worst thing, best thing. Right?
See? Now it's
a conversation.
It's a conversation,
right?
Exactly.
Yep.
When a kid says nothing,
it's like,
tell me more.
Right. Okay.
Tell me more about nothing. What did that look like? What did it sound like? Who was there?
Yep. That's what I'm like. Who was there?
Yep.
Who was in the lunchroom? Who did you eat lunch with today? Like,
exactly.
Like, I don't remember what she says 90% of the time.
Right,
it's not
about
that.
It's about having a conversation.
It's about having the conversation and even helping her think through it. And I can't tell you how many things we have been able to dive into at a really deep level.
Right.
Because of just that slight exchange, worst thing, best thing. People are always like, oh, do you want to carpool? Like, if I had to carpool, that'd be one thing. But I don't. And that's my priority is driving to school and picking her up because that's our time. We're trapped. There can't be a phone on.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes we listen to a podcast together in the morning just to stir some conversation.
Right.
But
you think about that.
Yep.
Yeah. But you're asking her to
engaging without solving the problem for them.
Right. You're asking for a report, so they're developing critical thinking skills, doing all these kind of things that actually improve communication. And a lot of parents, when a kid says nothing, they just go, okay, and they don't push. They don't go further. And that communication piece, all of a sudden, as a teenager, the priority, the most influential people goes from parents to the peer group. And so that middle school, high school range, which is so hard because as parents, do you know all your kids' friends? Do you know the friends' parents? Like, keeping kids safe obviously is a big deal.
Right.
Because we want to keep our kids safe, but we also need to let them have moments of, oh shit, what do I do now? Oh my gosh, nobody's here to save me. How do I save myself? They have to know that.
They do.
Yeah, because
Scarlett had an instance of that when she first, you got to appreciate this. This kid is just so orderly, right? Went from small Catholic school, then into this charter school, and then all of a sudden we're just like, here you are. Here you're in middle school, 7th grade, and people are flying through the halls and swearing, and she's just oh my gosh, this is crazy. Plus, where we're zoned, it's into a lower economic environment, so it's she's got a huge mix of kids that she goes to school with, and it really was overwhelming for her at first. But she's so nice. And because she has very good manners and she really has a big heart, she was almost erring on the side of too much heart, where she'd let people that really didn't need to be in her life, right? Kids that were just not going to be a good influence, right? And that were almost latching onto her because she's nice, and so they were really, and we gave this girl, she was telling me about this gal at school, and I was like, well, that sounds pretty rough. Things that the girl was telling Scarlett about her family, and her mom goes out on dates, and she has bruises when she comes back, and I'm like, okay. She goes on a date. And the dad lives on the East Coast. I'm like, okay, so wait, she's going out on dates and her dad lives on the East Coast, but the mom's going out on dates and getting bruises. I'm like, yeah, you may want to think about distancing just a little bit. But she didn't even know how to create a
safe boundary,
right? Where this girl really was kind of, I was like, Scarlett, does she have any interest in you actually as a person? Or is she just here to kind of dump diarrhea of her life on you,
vampire.
Right? We gave the girl a ride home one day because the girl kind of was latching onto her. She's like, can I have a ride home? And I'm like, well, sure. Oh my gosh. I was like, she was in the back seat with my purse, and all I was thinking about was like, oh fuck, is she gonna steal shit out of my purse? And I don't want to wreck by looking back and grabbing my purse, nor do I want to make it awkward, but I'm like, oh my god, I've got a 7th grader in the back seat of my car that I'm afraid of.
Right. I think I know the school you're talking about.
You think?
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. But when she got out and she was saying really just racially derogative things, Scarlett's Chinese. I mean, I was like, okay, wait a minute. So she gets out. And we laugh about it. I mean, I cannot even do this justice, how crazy it was.
Yeah.
And she got out, and I was like, Scarlett, what are you thinking, bud? And she was like, well, I didn't want to be mean to her. I go, mean to her? She was saying really horrible racial things. You know you're Chinese, right? Like, this girl is prejudiced, right? I'm like, what are you thinking? And she was like, well, I just almost felt like she needed permission, like from me or someone else to say, like, it's okay to distance yourself from this girl.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a huge eye-opener for me that even though I've tried hard to bring diversity and problem solving into Scarlett's life, I was clearly dropping the ball along the way because she did not even know how to keep someone that needed to not be in her life out. But she learned that from this experience. I could not have taught her that in a million years. Nope.
We can't. I mean, I remember exactly when I learned it because I grew up in Otis Orchards right across the border, which our area, let's face it, is white.
It's totally white. I know. I got an Asian daughter. Like, it's an
Asian daughter.
issue.
It's like, oh my gosh, she's one of 3 Asian people in the entire community.
First time she went to San Francisco, she was like, what the fuck? I had no idea there was this many Asians.
This is so crazy. There's this many in the world? I didn't know.
There's more Asians than anybody, just so you know.
But that was my first experience. Going to our local farm, being a white kid, and never knowing that there was anybody other than white people. And all of a sudden, like, I went over to my aunt's house in Seattle when my twin sister, just as soon as I think it was my little sister just been born. So I think I was 6, almost 7 years old. And my mom was like, oh my gosh, okay, this is child number 4. She was an oops. And we went, oh golly, we need a little bit of break. So my twin sister and I got to go over to my aunt's house in Seattle and spend a week with them. We thought, this is amazing. This is so much fun. This is like, they're our favorite aunt. These are our cousins. This is so cool. Having blast. And oh my gosh, my sister got to go out. I know it was a Wednesday because it was like, we're going to separate. She gets to go with my aunt and go shopping. And I get to go to Puget Sound and go salmon fishing with my uncle. And I was so excited. So excited because I'm like, I'm going to catch a salmon. I've only been like catching these little tiny fish in the lakes. Oh, I was so excited. We go down. We get on his boat. Things I didn't know about my uncle. 1, he's a terrible sailor. He should not be allowed on the water. Number 2, he doesn't like to follow the rules. So he never had fishing licenses.
Oh.
And so
just that minor detail.
You know. And 3, he's super friendly guy, which I'm like, okay, great. Awesome. So I remember we start fishing and I'm like, what are we fishing? We're catching these little tiny fish. He's like, oh, this is bait. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Well, game warden shows up. And he's like, hey, time to go. Boom, jump in the boat, untie, zoom out, go a mile up the shore to another dock. And he's like, we need more bait. So we start fishing, and that's the first time I ever saw somebody that looked different than me. And they were Asian. They were Vietnamese.
Yeah.
I now know that they were Vietnamese. I didn't know this at the time.
No, because Asian's just Asian, right?
I didn't even know what Asian was. I didn't know anything. I was
white person's response. They're like, Asian.
You look different. Oh, strange. Your skin color's a little different. Your eyes don't look the same, and you're wearing these weird hats.
So you're all just Asian,
right? And like these dress robe thingies. I'm like, just Asian, right? I had a very shit. But my uncle starts because he was in Vietnam, so he knew a little bit of Vietnamese. He starts talking to him in his broken Vietnamese. They start talking to him in their very broken English. And like we just, having a good time. I had no idea what anybody's saying anywhere. And I'm just like catching fish. This is awesome. Well, game warden shows up again. And all of a sudden my uncle's like, hey, time to go. And he invites all these guys into the boat with us. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's my uncle, myself at like just under 7 years old, and these 7 Vietnamese men. And we tool out into the middle of Puget Sound. And we're like, we had a great time. We just fishing, crabbing, caught some fish. It was great. And when my uncle goes to start the boat to go back, the boat doesn't start. Boat's just done. And it's like, what the heck? And so, I mean, it's cramped. We're like sardines.
I've got this picture in my head that is just making me giggle.
1972, 19-foot closed bow, tiny little boat with 7 people. There's 7 men, the 8 men plus me, little kid.
Vietnamese men.
7 Vietnamese men, my uncle and me, in this tiny little boat. And he looks under the engine compartment. The engine compartment's completely flooded with seawater. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we're sinking. We're gonna die. I'm like, I'm dead. Oh my gosh, I'm so dead. And my uncle, everybody's smoking. Except for me, because, obviously I didn't smoke at that point. Yeah, I wasn't a smoker yet. And I do all these things, and then all of a sudden my uncle goes, I got it. Geoff, stay here. Now, we're in the middle of Puget Sound. Stay here. Like, where am I going to go? And he goes, I'll be back. And he literally stands up pats me on the head, stands up on the bow, and jumps off into the ocean and starts swimming away. And just leaves me.
Are you kidding me?
In the boat at 6 years old with 7 Vietnamese men that don't speak English.
That you didn't even know existed.
I didn't even know that there were other people other than white people on the planet. And I'm stuck in a boat in the middle of the ocean. And I watch my uncle get smaller and smaller as he swims away through shark-infested waters. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm dead. I am so dead. And I immediately go to the worst case scenario of like, oh my gosh, who are they going to eat first? It's the white kid. They're going to eat the little tiny white kid because, oh my gosh, I'm different. I'm going to die. I crawled up in the front of the bow, covered myself in like life jackets and just sobbed. And one of the gentlemen, I have no idea how old he was. I remember he kind of like came up into the bow of the boat and just sat next to me and just patted me on the head. And the only words that he said were, okay. And he just smiled, had 2 teeth. And just, okay. And I remember snuggling up with him and he just patted me on the shoulder like the wise old grandfather. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine. And 2 hours later, my uncle shows up with another boat. They tie us a rope to us, tow us in.
But think about that experience. I just want to know, what kid on the face of the planet right now, in this world, in our country especially, right, is ever going to have that kind of experience.
Right. And I got to have that, and it changed my view of people. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be able to speak the same language.
Yep.
A smile and a handshake.
Yep.
And a okay.
You don't have to have a single dang thing in common.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. The smile alone is an icebreaker. The smile alone and the ability to communicate in some way. Mm-hmm. And play is universal. Play and math are the 2 universal languages. So if you think about it, numbers and play are how humans connect. It's how we can share information.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so it doesn't matter who you are on the planet. If you can play with somebody, you can laugh and giggle with them, you've created a bond. You've created a common experience that you can now move forward with a relationship.
So for people listening, especially parents, right? If we just stick to those 2 principles, I just learned something from you. It's like, okay, if I look at, it doesn't matter exactly what it is. I just need to think about, okay, if it involves some kind of play or interaction on any kind of level, have at it. Start introducing it into your kids' life.
Yeah.
It can be that simple.
It is. It really is. And it's funny because that's how my company actually started. Which
I wanted you to go into like how we went into kids, and I'm really glad we did because this is going to be really helpful for people. Right. But how you took that from, okay, we see why it's necessary in kids, and then like when we lose that as an adult.
That's the problem. Okay. Is that I would do these programs in schools, and adults would watch it and go, "Do you do that for adults?"
Oh.
And I went, well, no, not really. And they're like, why not? We need that. We need to play. We need to have fun. We need to laugh. We need to engage with each other in a meaningful way, in a meaningful experience. And I went, oh. So that's how Professionals at Play was born. Because people, like adults, asked for it.
So then when you first started it, did you introduce it to individuals or to companies, or how did you start building that?
Well, because I'm a social media genius. I just learned how to do a Facebook Live like
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, like 9,
dude,
10 months
like,
ago. Like, wait, you can do how do you do this live thing? They're like, you push the button that says live. I'm
and then
like,
be ready.
oh shit, that means I'm real. Like, oh
I'm
crap.
really live?
I remember my very first one. I recorded. I didn't do the Facebook Live one. I did the actual recording first, and I did it 30 times before I actually hit the Facebook Live button.
Isn't it crazy?
And I was terrified.
Yeah,
it's terrifying.
scary.
It's
People
so
don't
scary.
realize the first day I set up my stuff in here to record my first episode and by myself. It's different, like having a conversation.
Yeah.
Like that's where I would have been more comfortable starting, but I didn't want to do that. I was like, I'm just going to dive right in.
Yep.
You have no idea how freaking scary that was. Like, and it's just me
Terrifying.
in this room. I'm like, Evie, you can delete it.
Right.
Right? I'm acting like everybody on the face of the planet is watching me. Like there's probably going to be 20 people that watch the first episode anyway.
Right.
But that was good for me.
We're terrified.
Right? Really good for me.
Well, we're terrified of what other people will think of us.
Yeah. And I
That's
typically
social
don't live on
pressure.
a daily basis of really giving a shit. But there are instances that like I practice not caring about what people think about me. But it's hard.
It is really hard because, again, we're social creatures. We want to be liked.
Yep.
We want to have a community.
Yep.
But the cool thing is when you build that community, then the other people outside of that community, their opinions of us don't really matter.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Like, I don't care what somebody else thinks of me. My sense of self-value is not in what they think of me. My sense of self-value is in what my immediate community thinks of me.
Oh, so
my
right.
friends, my family,
Yeah.
my kids,
Yeah.
like those people, I want to be the person that my dog thinks I am.
Absolutely, right? Like we have that shirt, be the
Exactly.
person your dog thinks you are, right?
Exactly, because it's so true. But
Which is
when
the
you can build
importance
that
of
community-
bringing in the right people into your
Exactly.
community, right? Where I think
Exactly.
anymore, a lot of people are, because we're so socially isolated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Even before we have this social distancing, right? We won't even go into it, but it's
Right.
like we were so socially isolated before that, where
Right.
we feel like we have associations with people because we see them on social media.
Right.
And people are less selective about who they really allow
Let
space and time in their
Yes.
lives. Like
Yeah.
for me, nobody's getting in.
Mhm.
Really. Like I'm open and friendly and always want new relationships,
Right.
but I'm very selective about who's getting my time, who's getting
Yeah.
any of my attention, and my energy especially. Like
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to give energy to shit that doesn't matter.
Right.
Right? That doesn't,
That's
at the
so-
end of the day, make me a better person or make
Right.
me a higher level
Why would
contributor
we-
to mankind.
Right. Why would we let that in?
Yep.
And
But
yet
so many
do.
people do.
Right.
Yep.
Because they want to be liked.
Yep.
And there's a huge difference between nice and kind.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And if people just look up, what is the difference? Well, really, what's the difference? Well, nice will say yes to anything. Nice will be nice is a
I fucking
doormat.
hate that word.
I-
Like, well,
I-
she's really nice. Casey
like,
will
you
say
call me
that all
nice
the
again, I'm
time.
gonna
Like,
punch you in the friggin' throat.
like professionally, he'll make decisions like, well, he was really nice. I'm like, well, yeah, nice is really fucking hard. Nice
Right.
is like, just don't be an asshole.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Nice doesn't mean anything.
Right. Kind can say no.
Kind is
Kind is a
hard,
big one.
right?
Kind is hard.
Kind takes work.
Kind takes work.
Vulnerability.
Because you
Willingness
have
to not be liked.
Exactly. That's what's really hard about it. Because everybody wants to be liked.
Yep.
But you also have to know, like you said, there's those people that are just going to be emotional vampires. They're going to suck you dry of your energy and your time. I'm sorry, I can make money. I can make money doing anything. I can go mow lawns for all I can do anything to make money. But I cannot make more time. And my time is the most valuable asset that I have.
Yep.
So I need to use it wisely with people that are going to improve my life or that I can actually improve their life. And so that's where I dedicate my time,
Okay.
And so, this whole social isolation, we've been practicing social isolation for a long time.
I know there's more people outside in Coeur d'Alene because the sun's shining now that we're supposed to be socially distanced than there ever was. Now people are like, oh, I want to go for a bike ride. I want to go for a walk. Like, what the fuck have you been doing for the last 20 years? You haven't been outside.
I didn't know.
Because I'm outside and you're not out there.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, I love going to the mountains. That's like my jam. I love it up there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'll just go to the mountains and be alone. Well, now there's people up there. I'm like, damn it, son of a
I know
bitch.
all these people are ruining my dog's walk in the morning. I'm like, I can't let him off the leash.
You gotta put your dog on a leash. We're in the friggin' mountains.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We have that guy in our neighborhood all the time.
Oh,
Like, my
that's
dogs
insane.
are trained off a leash. Like, I
Right.
put them on when there's other dogs around. Yada, yada,
Right.
yada. I'm like, every day, grumpy. Supposed to be on a leash. I'm like, good thing you're out enjoying sunshine and trying to be happy.
I choose happiness. You know what? I'll show you some wildlife. Here's some birds. Here they are. It's my favorite birds right there. Birds of prey.
Oh, good.
I wish I
Okay,
could
so
say
tell me how, we've got a few minutes left.
Okay.
I want to give some tangibles
Okay.
to people, right?
Okay.
So we know that you help people
Yeah.
to win in life
Yeah.
by playing. Right?
Yep. I
Give
wrote.
us like some ideas, like for
Oh,
people
man.
listening that are like, okay, well, what do I do? Like, how do I even get started in that? Because with 101, like we both know how few people actually really employ this.
Right,
And I say
right.
it to people, not because it's what I do, it's just because it makes common sense to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
do things that you love.
Oh my gosh.
It's
Yeah.
going to make you happy and it's going to reduce your stress.
Yes.
So where do people start?
So start with what you love. Like make a simple list of what do
And write
I
it down.
like to do.
Truly write it
What do I
down.
like to do? And what puts a smile on your face? You know, and then take the things that are on there and say, think about when you were a little kid. What games did you play? What activities did you do that also brought you a smile?
Got
You
it.
know, is it going for a hike? Is it riding your bike? Is it fishing? Is it talking to friends? Is it playing with Barbies? You know, is it sewing? Is it, I mean, anything that can bring you a little bit of joy, right? And then the I don't want to say the gamification of that, but actually turning that into an activity that is play-like, you know, allowing yourself to have fun with it. Play is all about fun. Play is about releasing the chemicals in your brain that help to alleviate stress.
Right.
You know, flushing the cortisol from your system, joy and laughter. Laughter does that. It helps to flush the system out. So whatever brings you joy and laughter, if it involves other people, even better.
Yep.
You know, socially just 6 feet away, elbow Wakanda forever, you know.
I'm not bumping anyone's fucking elbow. I have to tell you this because when you just said, think about what you did when you were young, that actually lit you up.
Yeah.
And like, it really wasn't a whole lot of biking. And like, I mean, the thought of playing dodgeball to me is terrifying because I was kind of a wimpy kid. Believe it or not, I was a really wimpy kid.
I can't believe that.
I really was. Like, I hated heights. I didn't like to go to big parks and stuff because it freaked me out if people were going to roughhouse me and stuff. I didn't like it. But I used to love to like pretend that I was the game show host.
Awesome.
Now think about this. This is like going to blow your mind. And I'm actually, maybe we can clip it onto this audio file. I'm going to try. Okay, so my mom just about a month or two ago brought back this little tape recorder. And it was a tape recorder that my dad had used on job sites, and he passed away, and so that's why we had kept it, because it had his voice on it. But I can remember, and this was when I was 10.
Tapes.
I flipped it over so I wouldn't erase his voice, but I was staying with my sister and her husband. She was quite a bit older than I. And on this video, Geoff, you can't even believe it. It's my 10-year-old voice, and I'm like, so Timothy, that's my brother-in-law's name. So Timothy, how long have you been working at this dairy farm? Like, I'm totally interviewing him. Like, I mean, we really need to figure out how to put it, like, get it converted so we could add it to my podcast.
Yeah.
But you know, you think about that. I mean, we laughed so hard we were crying.
Right.
But I did that when I was young, and look what I'm doing now.
Exactly.
Like sitting here interviewing people,
Yeah.
right? And I never consciously thought about that.
Yeah.
But this shit lights me up.
Yeah.
And it lit me up when I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just an example. Oh, I love that. Like, what did you do when you were young for people?
Well, think about it. If you think about what did you do when you played when you were a kid?
Yeah.
And does it actually influence what you do now? For me, it's like 100%.
Yep.
How I learned, the skills that I learned on the playground and playing with other people
Yeah.
is directly how I interact with people now. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm basically a 43-year-old 10-year-old. Sometimes 13, depending on what the humor is. I still think farts are funny, just so you know.
I do
boys
too, just so you know.
hilarious.
Like, I'm kind of a boy.
It's hilarious. But
Oh.
yeah, and so start with what you love. Think about what you did when you were a kid and try it again. Obviously, don't go out and like play Red Rover as a 40 or 50-year-old adult without warming up first. You will pull a hammy.
Pull a hamstring.
You pull a hammy. Damn it,
But
damn it,
it's
damn
so
it.
good for you to say that. I think that that's just going to bring so much clarity to people, because when you say do what you love, people are like, well, I love to go on vacation. I love to sit on the beach, but I have a job all day long and I can't just do that, right? People just don't, they shut down when like, what do you love? As if what you love has to just happen in your free time or on vacation or when you have enough money or when you have more time or when you're retired. Right?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, actually, most of my clients are in my coaching profession. Most of my clients are with me because they want to find that joy again in life.
Yep.
And it's great. It's one of our earliest conversations. What did you do when you were a kid? What brought you joy and happiness then? Great. Are you doing any of those things now?
And I would
Thank
guess
you.
that the majority of people are saying no. Like I don't
No.
do anything even remotely that
Right. And then it
resembles
goes to,
what I did.
Why not? What now? Where can you put those things in your life? Well, I don't have time. Oh, really? Well, let's look at your daily life. Now, and it's just asking questions, and it's and then all of a sudden, if they start to actually intentionally put those joy and laughter moments in their life, it's a game changer for people.
And it just builds momentum, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm very keen on the phrase building life momentum,
Yeah.
right? Because what we're doing, it builds momentum, and that's
Exactly.
negatively and positively.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If all you do is look at social media, then that's negatively going to be, yes, that's
You're
all
going
you
down.
make your time for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But if you make time to do the things,
To
figure
bring in
out
joy
what
and happiness.
makes you
Yeah.
joyful and happiness,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that in and of itself, you don't even have to go to a 12-step guide of stress reduction. Right? How you reduce your stress when innately you fucking hate your life. I'm like, well, those 12 steps aren't going to help.
I'll tell you right now, if you're in that point, it's going to cost you a lot more. I can fix you, but it's going to cost you.
Oh, I
It's an
love it.
investment in yourself. I love all these things, and people are like,
I know.
because I'm a firm believer in personal development, and I don't know how much money I've spent. I had probably $50,000 at least.
Yep.
That I've working on myself, and like, how do I get better at what I do, and how do I get better at helping people, and my library is extensive, and I love to read, and so I'm like, when somebody goes, oh yeah, that's a lot of money to coach, that's a lot of money. Like, well, let's look at your finances and see where we can find it.
Yep.
Because if it's important to you, then
You'll make it happen.
You'll make it happen.
Yep.
And that investment, it's an investment. It's not a cost. I don't know if I've ever said that to anybody yet, but
Oh,
I'm
we try to
waiting.
do that on the
I'm
back end stuff on our
probably gonna
website. It's like,
laugh so
don't
hard.
say it's going to cost you this much.
It's
Just
gonna-
say you need to invest this much.
Right.
All right. Other people have to take care of that shit for me because I'm not good at it. I'm like,
That.
yeah.
I'm like, I just want to help people.
What you did today.
Awesome.
So many good takeaways
Oh, yeah.
for people.
That's
And
so
me, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you just let me up. I'm going to go home and write some more things down that I loved to do when I was young.
That's
Right?
awesome. I don't want to hear that recording.
Oh, I'm telling you, we have to because it's one of those little
Yeah,
mini
the little mini
cassette,
tape. Yeah, right. The mini
right?
tapes. You can't.
And
find
we
them
don't want to
anymore.
keep on rewinding it because it's.
No,
I mean, you got to think I was 10 and I'm
eventually-
47, so that's
Right.
37 years old. I'm
Yeah.
super freaked out that someone's gonna fucking rewind it and bust it.
Yeah.
So we've just got it sitting there. So I'm gonna look into it, but it's really
Yeah.
great because I'm 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like bossing my sister and her husband around, and they're like in their 20s, right? And I'm like, I'm calling my sister Barb. I'm calling her Barbara. Now Barbara. Now Timothy.
Barbara.
And they're both like answering my questions like totally serious. And look, 37 years later,
Yeah,
not
there
a
you
damn
go.
thing has changed, right?
Right? And it's so much fun.
So good.
So awesome.
Yep.
So awesome.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh.
I have one last thing for you before
Okay.
you go.
Uh-oh. Okay.
You have to
Ready.
share with us one truth.
Ooh, one truth.
And I'm sure for someone like you, there's a lot of them, but
Mhm.
one thing that became just an evident truth in your life that shifted something for you, shifted directions in your
Wow.
life.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them. I mean, so many. I think the possibly the most applicable right now for the situation that everybody is in, with all the social distancing and all the things that we're supposed to
And
be
the
doing,
fear.
and the
Mhm.
fear. I'm going to say this: unplug to plug in.
Oh,
Unplug from technology and plug into humanity. It's a phone call, it's a FaceTime, it's a shouting to your neighbor over the fence. It's I just saw a group of guys, it was funny, practicing social distancing on the block, 6 feet apart from each other in a ring, having beers.
oh.
And I did it yesterday. I went to an online social with one of my friends across the country, and we had a beer, and we chatted, and we, took each other on a tour of our places, and we connected. So unplug to plug in. Yep.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I
You're the
love
best.
it. Thank you. Thank you.
Right.
So good to see you again, and
So
thank you
good
for
to
having
see
me.
you.
I appreciate it.
You're the best. So just a reminder, guys, if you are tuning in on video, make sure that you subscribe to the EML Radio channel so that you're getting all of the updates when we release new episodes. And while you're there, I can't ask you many times to actually give us a review, right? Even if there's something you don't like, give me a thumbs down. We're just trying to build the audience, and we can't do that with all the algorithms unless we get subscribers, and then we also need reviews and feedback. So leave me a comment. I'm always there to answer every single one of them, so be sure you do that. If you are tuning in on the audio versions, same deal. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications. We are now really systematic, got our editing issues corrected, and so we release a new episode every Monday and every Thursday. So turn those notifications on to make sure that you're not missing out. And as always, thanks for your time. I don't take it lightly.
Bye,
Peace out.
everybody.
Bye-bye.